Let's talk to Chad, and then I want to recap this call we just made in Bloomington, and then we got a couple more calls to get to before we wrap up this beautiful Wednesday. Brother Chad, how in the world are you? Before you answer that, are you sitting in a flip house right now?
Can't answer that.
Oh my gosh, Chad, unacceptable, brother. How in the world are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just digging out of the snow like everybody else in the Midwest, but we're good.
I love it, man. So this is Chad McCormick, and he's become a great friend of ours since becoming part of the community here, nearly a year and a half ago. And I'm always giving him a hard time because he was like me when I started, and he knows how to work really hard. And he keeps falling into this trap he used to in the past, fall into this rehabbing trap. And we're bringing him out of that rehabbing trap. But got to do what we got to do sometimes. I respect that. Chad, digging out of the snow, bring me up to speed. How have you been?
Been really good. Been getting back to what you're teaching these guys to do, chase those chickens. Something I had such great luck with for really 8 or 9 month period, just buying and selling houses, some boss flow, some wholesale. Getting back to that, I got a seller I have to call here a little bit later today. Been a little bit slow going, getting out to be able to see any of the houses around here with the snow, but I believe I'm going to be able to get up here and look at this house. There's a pretty good chance that I'm going to be able to get it under contract and should be able to move it if I do. I think I may already have a buyer.
Heck yeah. So question for you. I want to dive into this. I want to talk a little bit about your wins. Chad has absolutely crushed it over the last year and a half and talk about, digging out of a tough place whenever you became part of the community. Things wasn't so great at the moment. And except you're that type of person. You say, hey, I'm going to surround myself by the right people. I'm going to be coachable. I'm going to make a difference. I noticed you said something there. I think it's very important for everybody listening. And that is, you said, I'm going to go back to hunting chickens. And I believe every one of us, I know me, I start out, I go crush it. I get some deals. Lauren contracts a deal and Tom closes a deal and Heather gets a couple deals. And then as soon as that happens, it's so tempting to stop doing what's working and to go chase a new shiny object. And while, yes, always be leveling up, always be growing, never stop doing what's working until the new thing outpaces what's working. And I want to hear from you a little bit about that. How did you get away from hunting the chickens for a few weeks or months there, and what made you say, wait a second, I got to get back to this?
Well, we're building some really big, cool things for the future that are going to make us a ton of money. But erroneously thought, oh, I've got to concentrate my time and effort on those things, right? And I did need a ton of time and effort. Still put a ton of time and effort into our wholesale business, which is a national operation, to being a part owner in a real estate brokerage, to building some really big, cool things there. But you guys are learning here on this call, it doesn't take, 30 or 40 minutes a day to make these phone calls, to get these people to follow up, to, do whatever you got to do to move the deals down the pipeline. And there was no reason that I ever should have stopped that. And I just, starting to have some times where I looked at the bank account, it didn't really look the way I wanted it to look. And I'm starting to think about other streams of income. And I thought, well, I discarded my best stream of income in order to build these other things, right? Take, 45 minutes or an hour a day and add that back in, and I still had plenty of time to do the other stuff. So the old bank account just brought me back down.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit more about that. Before I do, how are you managing all the businesses that you're running and working with your amazing wife, Devin, and your 9 beautiful kiddos? How the heck do you do it?
Well, I
Some
have
of
to
your kiddos
say,
are adults, I know, but
yeah, there are some. They range from 25 to 11. So we've got a few in adulthood, but sometimes they take more time than the young ones do. But just like you said, my amazing wife is takes the brunt of that. I'm able to be more involved because of my profession than a lot of people are. I'm not strapped to a 10 hours a day to a desk or to a factory or anything like that. So I get to do a lot of things with my kids that maybe others wish that they could. But Devin still does the majority of that, and is great at it. And she supports me at the same time. You frequently see her helping me with what I do. So it's just a collaborative effort. I do my part, she does her part, and our kids are good kids. I mean, they've got their challenges, but they really are good kids.
so as much as you want to share here, as much as you're okay with sharing, how did you came out of the gate? You started crushing it. You was just extremely coachable in the beginning. How much cash and equity did you build? and then you ran into a bit of a cash crunch. We'll talk about that in a moment. But how much cash and equity did you build out the gate over the last 12 months of working together, first 12 months of working together?
I have lost track of it a little bit. The last time I had really a really good number for it, it was around $650,000 in. And when I say revenue, that means checks that we've cashed, equity on the back end, cash flow. Well, that's not even taken into the cash flow into account. There were some properties that we just outright sold. There were some wholesale deals. But so all of that, if we put it in a number, the last I counted was around 650, but I think that's probably closer to $1 million now. And yeah, then I realized I needed to chase those chickens again. So I'm ready for the next $1 million.
Yeah, and I want to say something, because you guys learning Boss Low, and this happens. For those of you who are experienced, you maybe already come through this. For those of you who are newer, maybe you're not hit this place yet, but it's very common in this business. We go out, we start having success. And that's what I was referencing earlier. I did that in the beginning, and I started building equity. Chad started building equity. He goes, okay, pushing close to 7 figures in cash and equity. Cash some, what was your biggest check? 63 or 68,000? I seen you texting.
Yeah. 65 something, yeah.
65 and change. So, 65,000 check, a 20 check, an 18K check, and you're cashing the checks. And then you go, wait a minute. I love Boss Low. I love the fact I can buy a house and get 50, 60, $80,000 in equity, later money. I know you and Chris are working on some commercial projects together. You go, okay, I got all of this stacking the pipeline, but something very important as real estate investors, and I see a lot of people mess this part up, is saying, hey, how do I review the money I need? And it sounds simplistic, but how do I review the money I need the next 45 days? And even if I have to give up a 80K later payday to get 20K now, how do I make sure I'm stacking right now, as we talk about, feeding the chickens today? How do I eat chickens today while I'm hunting the elephants tomorrow? How do I make sure that I'm, as shout out to our friend Marshall, who always talks about eat the chickens. And I think that's a shift. And for anybody here who either has or is experiencing that, it's going, oh my gosh, it makes a lot of sense. So hearing from you, Chad, just kind of hitting that bit of cash flow famine in the interim, cash availability, and then fixing that, what would you say to 6 months ago, Chad, coming up to that crunch? What would you do differently?
I would have said, listen to Andrew better.
Because I love you too, brother.
I pride myself on, and when I started this journey, I said, I'm going to listen to someone, some people, many people who are where I want to get. I'm going to do what they tell me to do. It's as simple as that. And I did that to a very high level, to a very high percentage, but I didn't do it all the way. I didn't do it when it comes to Dispo, something you're getting ready to talk about. Doing that the right way would have put me in a better position financially. And then just maintaining, like you said, what works. I wasn't, I had great intentions, right? Everybody, at least me, when I start something new, I think, well, it's going to take off tomorrow, right? And it's going to be this huge thing. And it's just not usually like that.
Everything always goes perfectly for us, Chad.
It does. That mentality was fine. It was just that I should not have, stop doing what was working, and I'm back to that. So it's just water under the bridge now.
Heck yeah. What would you say over the next 8 months you're most excited about right now?
Most excited about our commercial building that will probably be done by that time.
Heck yeah.
I'll have my own office and another stream of income.
Why are you excited about that? What does it mean to you?
It's going to be profitable. That's cool, right? But it's kind of new. I've done a bunch of house flips, and I've done rentals and I've done Boss Low, which all of those things I'm sure I'll continue, except for the flips. But this commercial thing is something new, something cool. It's like it's in a really popping area. Like it's just it's got such great potential, and it's a lot of stuff that we do. Like we're gonna have a spot to have our meetups there, right? That we do. We're gonna have a spot to do podcasts, to do recording, like what you're doing now. All of that stuff is stuff that we want to do anyway. So it's gonna kind of all be in one place.
I love that. So, where is the next place you want to travel to? And when you travel, you just want it to be you and your wife, or you want to take all 9 kiddos?
I think I want it to be just me and my wife. And honestly, I would go right back where a trip that we won with you guys, which was to Cancun, Mexico. We had a great time there this past summer, and we want to go back. So
You're
I
saying we
don't
got to
know that
do
I'm
another
super-
giveaway.
Yeah, yeah.
When did you end up taking that trip? Because you won that what about just over a year ago?
Yeah. It was about a year ago, and it was we took it in October, I believe, is when we went.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was this stood out to you about that trip? Why do you want to go back?
Well, it was the weather was beautiful. I usually am not fond of extreme heat, humid heat. It wasn't too bad in October there, but I've never seen water like that. I've never seen water that clear. And being able to go out and witness that each day it was great.
That's awesome, man. What's a message that you would have for the crew here? You're someone who I have tremendous respect for. You become not only a mastermind member, but as our mastermind community do, you've become like family to us. And we hang out, we have dinner together. You're always trying to take me to dinner every time that we're in the same town, and I appreciate you for that. Very kind. And every time we hang out, it's just a joy. What's the word of wisdom you would give to everybody right now listening on YouTube and everybody hanging out with us on Zoom? What's something that you would say to them right now that you think this would shortcut your path big time if you just do this one thing? Maybe it's an action, maybe who knows what.
This might sound too simplistic, but the first thing that comes to mind is get to one of our Truca events. If you've never been, we're going to be in Houston this coming week. I'm going to be there. I'm making the drive down, even though I was just in Houston. But the Truca events are amazing. Like obviously that's where I became a member of the mastermind community. But every chance that I get, I go to one of those because they are amazing. They're uplifting. There's great networking. There's great knowledge or great education that happens there. For me, now, yeah, it was great education in the beginning, but now even where I'm at today, I learn something every time I go. The guests are always, Andrew, you always bring the greatest guests there that blow my mind. I've met some really high level people, and I would say if anybody hasn't been, or even if you have been, get to the next one.
You read that script perfectly.
And I was getting ready to say that was not scripted at all. You probably were expecting something different, but I love those events so much.
And I think you said something there, Chad, and I joke about that, but it's just one of those things that is so true. Shameless plug. Yes, we got one coming up next week, and events is what changed my life. That's why it brings me so much joy to every time. We get to go. Leo and I always fly in the day before if we get to host an event, and we we'll normally have a rendezvous the night before and connect up and grab dinner and talk about who's there, who we know's there, and say what would they need and what would God have us to give to them? Like, how do we best serve this crew right now? And something that absolutely amazes me every time we have that conversation is I know there is somebody. There's an Andrew, a 2014 Andrew sitting there, a 2024 Chad sitting there who has been beating their head against a brick wall a little bit, whether it be making good money, just not quite hit the level of freedom they want, or whether it be in some financial struggles. And there's somebody sitting there and there's going to be breakthroughs that happen. And that's what brings me so much joy above everything. That's what brings me joy on this show, except there's something that happens when we're together in person. And I'm such a believer in in-person connects. And I'm very excited, Chad, to be together. By the way, I just have to ask, in Houston, did you see the Prosperities when you were in Houston?
Yes. Just a couple weeks ago, we were there for my daughter's gymnastics meet, and they welcomed us into their home. We stayed right there with them for 4 days. We brought the cold weather with us, but we had a great time.
Heck yeah. I'm excited to see David and his family too.
Yeah.
So for Chad, for you, I want to ask you, a year from now, you and Chris, you guys are partners on the commercial project, right?
Right.
For those of you who don't know, Chad lives in Louisville. Chris Dickey, many of you know, one of our incredible coaches now in the community, also lives in Louisville, and neighbors. They also do a lot of business together. And so they're putting together a event center, and it's a office space, a whole co-work space, a very cool thing. Is it technically Jeffersonville? Is that the address?
Well, it's New Albany.
New Albany.
Yeah.
Just across the river, which, by the way, if you guys don't know this, Louisville, incredible town. And across the river, like Jeffersonville, many say is the next Nashville. They are building it up. They're putting billions of dollars of development into this little little town, and the spread is just awesome. What's going on there? And so, how did you find the New Albany Event Center?
Well, I was taking your advice, and I decided that I wanted to start a local meetup. And the place that I chose for the first one ended up not being a great choice. But I met a gentleman who actually owns the building that we're converting into the co-work space. Just kind of made a joke. He said, "Yeah, I've got so he heard what we were doing. He said, I've got some real estate," and I just kind of jokingly said, "Well, do you want to sell it?" And he said, "As a matter of fact, I do want to sell it." And so I walked around the corner and looked at the property, called Chris. Chris and I ended up seeing the property, I think the next week. And we were like, man, there's something we didn't really know. Then we were like, the growth in that area is so rapid, like something is really going to boom here. We just got to figure out what it is. So we did some market research and found out some other cool things about the area and said, yeah, this is it. Let's partner up with this guy who's got the property and let's get this thing rolling. And it's taken a little while. It's something we haven't done, but I believe we are going to close on funding next week and start the build out, which should really only take about 3 months.
That's amazing. Something that I've watched with you as you blossom into a next level human, really, father, husband, because that's the part we don't talk about, is the fact that, and for those of you who know me or have been to a live event, you will hear me tell about it. But, I remember years ago just feeling like nobody gets it. The people at church, like, they're just telling me to pray about stuff and God bless them. But like, you try praying about it when you're getting sued by 7 people. And so on the other side, the people in business were just like, it was like they didn't understand my intention for God first. And so it was such this internal battle. And I say that tongue in cheek, but there was this internal battle and I felt lonely. And something that I love hearing from you and watching you and Chris too, and so many in the community is in your case, the father and the husband that you have stepped into for leading your family. And I don't know how much you see it, but all of those around you and your family see it big time, Chad. And I'm very proud of you, brother.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you.
Appreciate you too. All right. Last question. It is 2027. We're sitting here. You and Chris have been crushing it now for almost a year. The last 6 months, you've had the event space done. You've got your offices. You're sitting in your New Albany, beautiful office. You're just hosting a meetup tonight downstairs, and we're having another Zoom on another Wednesday deal room, and you're telling us how the last year has changed. And I ask you a question, and I say to you, Chad, you remember a year ago? Yeah. Remember when we were sitting there and Lauren, I don't know how she does it, but she's almost always first and foremost front on my screen. And she was right there, front of my screen. And all the crew is sitting there on the screen looking at us. And we're having this conversation. And it was February of 26 when we had that conversation. And you had hit some cash crunches. You was coming out. You was just getting ready to close escrow. Chad, what did you change in February of 2026 to now hit all of your goals? You've got liquid multiple 6 figures in the bank, and you're not fixing flipping houses no more. You're only cash flowing houses and commercial projects, and you're really built a business of your dreams. What changed? What habit shifted for you?
Consistently listening, consistently reflecting on what I've been taught, and making sure that I apply those things. I firmly believe where I sit now, I've got education still to get, yes, but if I apply what I know and what I've been taught and make sure that I'm constantly reflecting on that, Chris is a big part of that, just bouncing things off of each other. I think the growth is inevitable. And in this same time, 2027, my net worth and bank account won't be recognizable from what they are at this moment.
I'd love to see that. Thank you, Chad. And I think what you said there is, and for me, that was the biggest shift. Every quantum leap I had is because I chose the right people to be around. And you've done that. You said, hey, I'm going to surround myself by a community of winners. You said, I'm going to surround myself and not only hear great information, but implement quickly. Somebody else heard the same great information you did a year and a half ago, and they're still thinking about it. And yet you said, hey, I don't have much time to think. I got to move. And I just want to say kudos to you for yourself and your family and the legacy you're building. And I'm beyond excited what the next year is going to hold for you. Everybody give it up for Mr. Chad McCormick. Brother, I'll see you next week, my friend.
See you next week.
Thanks a lot, brother. Bye for now.